I'm 79 years old now, and there is one Tuesday afternoon from my past I would give everything to live again. I have a beautiful home, a quiet garden, and a life most would call successful. But if I could trade it all for 5 minutes in a rainy coffee shop in 1972, I would do it in a heartbeat. You see, we think the biggest ghosts in our lives are the people we've lost to the grave. But the ghosts that truly haunt you at 80 are the people who are still alive, somewhere out there, living a life that was supposed to be yours. I am haunted by 5 words I never said, words that would have changed the entire map of my existence. When you live long enough, you begin to understand something about life. The moments that change everything rarely look important at the time. They don't arrive with a fanfare. They don't feel like destiny. Usually they feel like an inconvenience. They feel like an argument you're too tired to have, or a phone call you're too proud to make. We spend our youth building walls to protect our ego, only to realize when we're old that we've actually built ourselves a very comfortable prison. This happened many years ago, when I was 24. I was younger then, and I had that terrible disease of the young. I thought I was the main character in a movie that would never end. I thought that if I walked away from something, I could always just walk back whenever I felt like it. I was living in the city, working as a junior designer. I was sharp, ambitious, and very, very stubborn. I had been with a man named Julian for 3 years. He was kind in a way that I wasn't ready for. He saw the parts of me I tried to hide with my expensive coats and my fast-paced career. It was an ordinary day in November, a cold, gray Tuesday. Nothing unusual was happening, just the kind of day you forget about until it becomes the only day you can remember. We were sitting in a small, cramped cafe near the train station. The windows were fogged up, and the air smelled of wet wool and cheap coffee. I was looking at my watch, thinking about a meeting I had at 4 o'clock. I was tapping my pen on the table, barely tasting my tea. Julian was sitting across from me. He looked tired. He had been offered a job in a different country, a chance for us to start something new, away from the noise and the stress that was clearly breaking us apart. We had been arguing for weeks about the future, but that Tuesday was the first time I realized he might actually leave. Then something small happened, something I didn't think much about at the time. Julian reached across the table and put his hand over mine, stopping my tapping pen. He looked at me, not with anger, but with a desperate kind of hope. He said, "I'm leaving on Saturday. I don't want to go alone, but I won't ask you again unless I know you actually want to be there. Not for the job, not for the adventure, but for me." The cafe was loud. Someone dropped a tray of spoons. A bell chimed as someone walked in. It was a tiny moment. A door was standing wide open. All I had to do was walk through it, but I was full of pride. I was angry that he was forcing me to choose. I told myself it wasn't important, that he was just testing me, and that if I stayed firm, he would eventually give in and stay. I told myself there would always be another chance to fix this. I assumed that his love for me was a permanent fixture, like a mountain that wouldn't move just because I ignored it for a while. "I have a career here, Julian," I said, pulling my hand away. "If you really love me, you wouldn't make me choose between my future and you." I felt powerful saying it. I felt independent. I thought I was winning the argument. I didn't realize I was losing my life. and then I made the choice that would follow me for the rest of my life. He waited. He sat there for a full minute, just looking at me, giving me every second to take back the coldness. My heart was screaming at me to reach back. My soul knew that he was the future I was actually looking for. But I looked at my watch again. I stood up. "I have to go to my meeting," I said. I didn't lean down to kiss him. I didn't even look him in the eyes. I just turned my back and walked toward the door. I refused to say the 5 words that would have saved us. I refused to say, "I am coming with you." It wasn't until later that I realized what that moment really meant. I went to my meeting. I got the promotion. I stayed in the city. And for a few months, I felt like I had won. But Julian did leave. He didn't call. He didn't beg. He simply accepted the silence I had given him. 5 years later, I saw a photo of him. He was in a garden, halfway across the world, holding a child. He looked peaceful. He looked like a man who had been loved by someone who wasn't too proud to say the words. And I spent the next 50 years realizing that my career was just a series of buildings that eventually got torn down or renamed. My independence was just a fancy word for being alone. Every man I met after him was measured against that Tuesday in the cafe, and they all fell short. I didn't lose him to a tragedy. I lost him to my own ego, and that is a much harder thing to live with. Looking back now, I understand something I couldn't see back then. We are taught that strength is about standing your ground, being right, and never settling. But as you get older, you realize that true strength is the ability to be vulnerable. It's the courage to say the words that might make you look weak, but will make you happy. I spent my life waiting for a better version of the story to start, not realizing I had walked out of the theater during the best scene. I have been successful by every worldly standard, but I would trade every award on my shelf just to be the woman in that garden photo. Silence isn't strong. Silence is just a missed connection. Life has a way of teaching us lessons, sometimes when it's already too late. If you have a hand to hold today, hold it. If you have a person who makes your soul feel quiet, do not let your pride tell you that you can find better elsewhere. Better is the enemy of great. Don't wait for the perfect time to be brave. Don't wait for them to say it first. Speak the words that are sitting in your throat right now before they turn into the silence of 50 years. And that was the lesson I learned too late. If this story spoke to your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't let your words go unsaid.